Thanks for listening to Eat Your Content. If you like what you hear, please consider supporting the podcast through my merch store on TeePublic. Get great quality items like t-shirts, hats, mugs, and more, all sporting the vibrant Eat Your Content logo. Go to teepublic.com/user/eatyourcontent for more great items, and thanks for your support. Welcome to the Eat Your Content podcast. I'm your host, Rich Herrera, and this is your place for all things food and pop culture. Thank you for tuning in to Eat Your Content. You have a lot of pods to choose from, but you chose mine, so I'm very happy and thankful. Just a couple of reminders to follow me on socials at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content on all the social media channels, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and some program reminders. Make sure to catch all my episodes. They're archived anywhere you get your podcast, and make sure to like, follow, and subscribe anywhere you get those podcasts so you'll know when new episodes come up. I have a special guest today. You may have seen him on social media literally pointing out different restaurants all around Jacksonville. You may know him as Big Rich Knows Jax, aka your big brother from another mother. But please welcome to the podcast my friend Richard Harris. Richard, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Rich. Another fellow Rich. Thank you for having me.
I know, Rich and Rich, right? I thought that was kind of fun.
Absolutely.
So we're probably, I do feature some local folks from time to time. So, why are we here today? I thought we had a really interesting conversation on Instagram based on one of the past videos I've done when I was talking about the kind of searching for the Jacksonville's food identity and a city as big as ours having, what are we known for culturally and culinarily? And one of my guests mentioned, following TikTok followers and opening up people to new places that they might not have been. And you had some strong reactions to that. So I wanted to bring you on and talk about that and kind of your experiences also kind of being out there in social media and being a content creator and working with businesses. But before we get into that, I kind of want to know your origin story. You have a very unique origin story. I've listened to a couple of podcasts that you were on in the past, but how did Richard Harris, the person, become kind of Big Rich Knows Jax, the personality, social media person? Kind of walk me through how you ended up becoming Big Rich Knows Jax.
So my background, obviously, I am a native of Jacksonville, born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. Yes, there are people who actually stay and live and spend their life in Jacksonville. We are a military town, so obviously my father was shipped here, and that's how I was born here. And then basically I've been here ever since. I have a culinary background as well. I went to culinary school, and I planned on having a career in culinary. I love to cook. I love food. I love the whole thing, when it comes to food. But I had a car accident years ago, and that kind of took me off of that path. So even though I can't professionally do it, I still have all the knowledge and the recipes, and I know how things are supposed to taste and the what goes into it. And so I like to support other people's passion who are actually out there, putting forth the effort to to feed the people. And if I can, get more people to those locations through my social media and through my personality, then that's what I want to do. I want to kind of be like the local Guy Fieri of Jacksonville. I guess that's how you could really kind of describe what I do is, take my platform and try to put other people in the spotlight. It's really not about me, even though it's Big Rich Knows Jax, because I'm from Jacksonville and I know where most things are. And if I don't know where they're at, I'm going to find them.
Yeah,
Especially when it comes to food, because I'm a big man because I love to eat, and I didn't get in this shape from not eating. So
takes a lot of effort to keep us a 10, right? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, one thing I tell people is, if you look at my page and you actually really dissect it, it's not about me. It's, I'm your big brother from another mother, because people come to me for advice or for recommendations. And that's usually what a big brother does is he's there for you whenever you need them. And that's what I try to do is I try to be there for, my family, my Insta fam.
Yeah. So when you kind of started down that path and you had to leave the, behind the scenes kitchen aspect of the culinary career and kind of move into this like marketing side of it,
Yeah.
were you doing it at first just, like anybody else that has a phone and a social media account, you're kind of taking pictures of your food and kind of describing it. But at what point did it become just like a hobby for you and then it became more of a business side for you now where this is kind of what you do for a living, right? I mean, this is what you do for your day job, essentially.
Well, honestly, the whole review side is not really what I do for a living, as I do that as still part of my, my wanting to give back and finding new places. I do consulting and administrative and like social media management on the side, and that's usually how I pay my bills.
Okay.
Everything else is just secondary. It, I come from the retail background. After my accident, I went into sales, in mostly in telecommunications as a cell phone person. And I love technology, so I always had the newest phones, and I love the way that I saw social media, a decade ago, how well it was starting to thrive and how people were using it. And I knew right away that this is going to be marketing. This is going to be how people find things is through social media, through Facebook, through any other platform that opens up. And obviously with Yelp, that's how I found a lot of restaurants is through Yelp and through Google. Um, and I would go and I would just kind of look in there and say, restaurants near me. And that's if I was in a certain, a different neighborhood, I would look for a new place to go eat. And I would take pictures of my food and I would post it on my Facebook and then eventually on Instagram. And I never put my face on there at first though. When I first started, it was just about the food and putting the restaurant out there, letting people know, hey, go try this food. And then, even though I would tag the restaurant and name the restaurant in the description, people would always ask me, "Where's that at?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where's that food at? Where'd you get that?" So that's where it became pointing at the sign when I go to a restaurant or a food truck is pointing at the name of the restaurant or pointing at the name of the place because I want to say, okay, well, you can't tell me I didn't tell you where it is because I'm pointing right at the sign. And that's
Yeah.
where the whole point, picture, kind of came from.
Yeah. It's kind of like your trademark now. So
Yeah,
it's
and
fun.
now I have the whole logo with the character, on as well. So yeah, it's become kind of my brand is, hey, go here.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. It's like you took your passion, even though you couldn't do it in one area anymore, and you changed it and learned along the journey, working in marketing and sales, and being able to pivot that into kind of your passion again. Food on
Yes,
the other side of things, and being
right.
able to consult and help restaurants, become better and navigate this minefield of social media, right? So let's kind of get right into like our conversation that we started on Instagram. So why do you hate social media influencers, Big Rich? I'm
I
just
don't
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
know
kidding. I'm
that.
kidding.
I mean, because if
So
you really think I can't hate influencers
you're in
because
it.
I am an influencer. What I hate is well, I don't. It's not. The word hate is a strong word. I don't hate anything. I don't really hate anybody. What I do, what I do dislike is people who take advantage.
Yeah,
Of
let's
people
talk
that
about
aren't
that.
knowledgeable. People that aren't knowledgeable about how social media works. People who have a large following but they use that following to like convince small business owners that aren't that savvy or that need a push. Then they charge them hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars to post for them because they have 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 followers. But yet what they don't explain to those people is those are worldwide followers. They're not just local people, that are following them. So you're not just because that person has, you know, 20,000 views on the video they did, where are those views at? Where are those views coming from? It's not just local. Yes, they do have a local following as well, but how many of those followers are actual local? I pride myself on like looking at my following, and if you're not like within 100 miles of of Jacksonville or St. Augustine or anywhere in the 904, then there's really no reason for you to be following me, or for me to uh like do videos for you, because you're not going to come to one of these restaurants or these food trucks that I'm trying to promote, and I'm trying to get more business to come to them. If you're in California, or if you're in, Russia, or if you're in India or Pakistan, or anywhere that's not in the 904.
Yeah. And one thing you were mentioning in our chat, that you had kind of a specific issue with people that, social media influencers that have this like big plate, this big table of food, almost like have you ever heard of those like mukbang videos?
Mukbang, yes.
Yeah, mukbang videos, kind of like that. And then they have these overreactions to, they're eating their food and things like that. Do you have such a issue with kind of that maybe overreaction, I guess,
Well,
of
it's
being
just
able to
not
try the food?
realistic.
Yeah, yeah,
The main thing is it's not realistic. It's clearly, like, when I look at those videos, and I've told this to the people that are doing it, it looks like you're a paid advertiser, that you're not a like supporter as much as you are a paid advertiser. There's a difference between supporting a local restaurant and basically getting paid to come in there and tell people about the food, which is great too. But you're not eating, you know, five entrees. You're not eating, even if it's two of you, you're still not eating five entrees and three appetizers and all these different drinks. And it's unrealistic. It's not authentic,
yeah. So
you
you're
know.
you're more into kind of like, go in there and order, or even if you're being paid to go there, right?
Yeah,
Or invited out, so to speak. Order the amount of food that you would normally order when you go out to eat, and
e-
have honest reactions to them. Uh,
exactly.
so I was invited out. I mean, I'm kind of in the foodie influencer sphere. I mean, I hate to even use that word,
Yeah,
but I write for Jack's Restaurant Reviews, on the side sometimes, and sometimes I get invited out. So I got invited
right.
out to 1912 Ocean Bar and Rooftop, brand new Sawgrass Marriott restaurant,
Sure.
and we went out there, and they said, order whatever you want. I was like, for real? And they're like, yeah, we'll take care of it. I was like, great. And I kind of looked at my wife, and she was my guest at the time. I'm like, should we go nuts? She's like, no, don't go nuts. Just order
Yeah,
what we would normally order. And I was like, well, I see a seafood tower, and I've never really experienced a seafood tower. Let's get that. So we ordered an appetizer, a couple of entrees, a dessert, and it was great. And I put on there, that I was invited out. I was completely transparent.
yeah,
I was under no obligation to write positively. Luckily, the food was great and it was good, and I enjoyed it, and I wrote about that.
sure.
But for me, that's what I would do. I would never have ordered like one of everything, and then
Right.
try to eat that all. So, yeah, I definitely see your point on there. But there's something to be said about the grandiose nature of social media, that everything needs to look bigger than what it really is. Like, you're
Sure.
kind of like in public speaking, you're talking to the person in the back of the room. With social media, when you have this big thing, is you're trying to showcase everything all at once to somebody that's got maybe a 5 second attention span, in scrolling. And when they see that kind of big spread and this cheese pull from a pizza or whatever, they're going to
Sure.
stop and they're going to look. So I guess a case could be made for either one of those. But what do you feel is kind of like the dark side of social media influencers on like local business, or the dark side of local business using social media as a way to grow?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you have the budget, I mean, like, when you have these franchises that keep opening up, you know, in Jacksonville, like in the town center, all these larger restaurants that they have a large budget.
Right.
That's one thing. But whenever you're going to, Bob and Linda's little restaurant, and you're charging them, 500 to $1,000 to make one reel, that right there, to me, it's kind of counterproductive when it comes to supporting local.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you convince them that they needed you because you have 50,000 followers.
Right. Right. So then we transition into, being a social media content creator. There is some there's some talent involved to do that. You got to have be able to set up shots. You have to be able to edit. You have to be able to make it look appetizing. So then we transition to places like Yelp and TripAdvisor and Google reviews, where now everybody is a reviewer now. Before, when restaurants opened up, before the rise of the internet, being a food reviewer, being a food critic was kind of this posh job. Like, you go in, you're all incognito, and nobody knows who you are, and people would look to your reviews and really take it to heart and really take it to mean something. Now everybody's a reviewer.
Very negative review on Yelp.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing with the rise of Yelp, and then the subset of Yelp called Yelp Elite, right? That's a whole nother bag. What are you noticing in on the restaurant side as a consultant? Do you find that restaurant owners are kind of targeting, or not, maybe not targeting, but really kind of making sure they're above reproach in the terms of Yelp or TripAdvisor? Or are you telling them, hey, just do your thing and Yelp's going to be Yelp?
Honestly, that's usually what I tell people. Like, you can't please everybody. As a restaurant owner, if you're so worried about Yelp and the reviews and things like that, you're going to stress yourself out. And and honestly, Yelp is a lot different now than it used to be. Same thing with Google reviews and TripAdvisor and all that stuff. You can make a review on a restaurant and you've never walked in the door.
Yeah, there's a lot
You
of that.
know, and that's the problem that I have, is Yelp and places like Google, and like, they don't support the restaurants unless you're paying them. Unless you're paying them, they don't really support you when it comes to like these people that do these blank reviews or 1 star, you know, reviews that are like one sentence long, and there's really no proof of that restaurant, was visited by that person. And that's the problem I have now, especially with all the small businesses that are closing down left and right for lack of support, is that there's a lack of support from Yelp and Google. And unless you're paying them, their monthly subscription fees as a business owner, and even then you're still kind of hung out to dry when it comes to the reviews.
Yeah.
It,
Do
you
you
know,
do you kind of feel like Yelp, and I keep using Yelp because it seems to be eponymous with all these like online restaurant review sites.
sure.
So do you feel like sites like Yelp are somewhat an extortion racket? Like, oh, it's a nice restaurant you got there.
If something were to happen to him, God forbid.
Like, do you kind of feel that a little bit?
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's kind of a mob mentality or anything, but they do kind of like leave the restaurants out to dry, unless you're, in my opinion. And I know the community manager that's here in Jacksonville. Rachel, she's great. She does a great job of what she does. But as far as like the actual like corporate side, when it comes to events, and her and her team does a great job with the events, the Yelp Elite events. Um, but these restaurants that are getting 1 star or 2 star reviews, and they're sitting there for 5 years, these 1 star reviews are still hurting the business, and they've actually improved over the last 5 years. They probably have even like new managers, new staff. They don't have the same people working there, but yet that 1 star review is still lingering over them, and anybody can see it.
Yeah.
And anybody can go on Yelp and just see all the reviews that are from 5 to 10 plus years ago, and all they see is the 1 star. They don't see that it's 5 years ago half the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Full disclosure to everybody. I am actually a Yelp Elite member. I have been for about 4 or 5 years now. I might not be after this podcast, but
Well,
I am.
I was also a Yelp Elite for the over 10 years, and apparently recently I was banned from being an elite because
Really?
because of my position that I work as an administrator on some restaurants' social media.
Oh, wow. I didn't
Which,
realize that.
yeah, apparently you're not allowed to have any type of ties to restaurants outside, when you're an elite.
Oh, wow. Well, that's sucky.
Which I
That's
think,
kind of awful.
which I know for a fact, other elite people, and I'm not going to name names because that's kind of flaky. But I know that they're also doing the same things. They're social media managers for a lot of little restaurants, and they get paid to do food photography and things like that. And they're still elite.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah, for some reason I was targeted they took my elite status away, and I was, like I said, I was a Yelper. I've been a Yelper for over 15 years,
yeah.
and I was Yelp Elite for like 11 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm a recent Yelp leader. I've been a Yelp leader for about 5 years now, and I will agree with you. The community manager and the local side of Yelp, I think, does a really great job of putting out events. I've been exposed to businesses that I probably wouldn't have known about or gone to because of where they are in Jacksonville. Jacksonville's huge, right?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I've been living in Jacksonville for about 10 years now, and there are still sections of the city I've never even drove through. It's just so big and so large. It's hard to
Oh
get
yeah.
out to some of these
Well, I mean,
places.
I've lived here my whole life, and I'm still finding new places.
Yeah, right. So being a Yelp Elite does expose you to those things, but I think Yelp as a corporation, I think just forcing restaurants to, or I don't even say forcing, but um, incentivizing restaurants in a negative way to
Yeah,
buy advertising space on the
yeah.
Yelp platform to take care of things like bogus one-star reviews and those kinds of things is it's a little shady and it's rough. It's rough on that's one side of the business I think that small businesses don't want to have to deal with, right? They
Yeah,
don't want to have to deal with this piddly stuff because I got a business to run.
right.
And yet it's there and you can't not do anything about it because it does kind of negatively impact your business.
And like I said, anybody can give you a review, even if they've never set foot in your door.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that right there is something that I've been telling the past couple of community managers to give this feedback to their bosses is you should have to have a receipt. You should have proof that you actually went into this place.
Yeah.
And you should have some type of like picture documentation, or you shouldn't be able to give somebody a 1 star or 2 star reviews or whatever without proof that you've been, or even a 5 star review. You should still have to give a, because anybody can do a 5 star review. And unfortunately, in the past, that some restaurants will pay people to just go do a 5 star review, and they've never even stepped foot in their door.
Right.
So I think there should be proof both routes, whether it's a
Yeah.
bad review or a good review. You should have to have proof that you actually went there and put your 10, 20, $30 down, and you shopped at that restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So as a social media kind of consultant now we have with Facebook, you have these Facebook groups now, and I'm part of a group called The Scoop. We got 120 some odd thousand members. The Scoop run by Jack's Restaurant Reviews. Do you find that localized groups like that on Facebook are maybe a little bit more honest, like we were just talking about fake one-star reviews with Yelp and Google and stuff like that? Do you find these like more localized groups on Facebook is a bit more honest and a bit more
No,
I don't no, not really.
honestly, I think that people love to hear themselves talk, and obviously we like to hear ourselves talk, but people would rather go online and blast a restaurant for their bad experience, and what they consider bad experience is the fact that they went on a Friday night and it was slammed, and they didn't get seated until 30 minutes later, or they didn't get their food right away.
Yeah.
And they love to go on there and blast on these groups, but yet they didn't give the feedback to the actual restaurant in person.
Mm,
They're really brave online. You're really brave going online and blasting this restaurant, on Facebook groups and stuff, but you didn't tell the manager, you didn't tell the owner, you didn't give them a chance to even, try to make it right. But you'll go and blast them and hurt their business. So, no offense to the Facebook groups that everybody's a part of, but there's a bad taste in my mouth for those two. Is But did you tell the restaurant? Because
yeah.
I'm on those groups as well on my personal account.
Yeah.
And I've stopped going in there because typically all I see is a bunch of negative Nellies going on there and blasting his business. And I'll go in there comment, did you tell the owner?
Yeah.
Who did you tell about this in person? Nobody.
Yeah. Yeah,
I left. I was so upset. I left. Yeah, okay. But who is that helping?
right.
Do you just want to hurt the business, or are you trying to help the business be better? Which is it?
Yeah. Like if I don't know there's a problem, I can't fix it, right? I mean,
Exactly.
nobody wakes up in the morning and decides, you know what, I'm going to give terrible service and terrible food today, and I don't really care.
Absolutely.
Nobody does that. They
Absolutely.
they wake up and they got a business to run. It feeds their family, and they put out the best service and the best food they can.
Yeah.
It's not to everybody's taste, but it's I think the onus is on us as consumers to let people know in a constructive way to
Yes.
say, hey, it's too salty or it's not salty enough, and
Absolutely. I
give them
mean,
a chance to fix it.
one thing that I tell like the restaurant owners that I talk to is, you know, you make sure that you don't take a lot of that stuff to heart when you see those reviews on Yelp and stuff like that.
Yeah,
If they didn't come to you first, they just wanted to complain.
yeah,
That's the type of person that is. That's the type of person they are, because otherwise they would have said something in person to
yeah,
somebody.
yeah. Do you think like social media influencers now, and to an extent some Yelp review writers, etc. Do you feel that the sense of entitlement among customers and those that have quote unquote a following has risen in the consumer's mindset today?
Of
Like
course,
you walking into a restaurant and just like you were here to serve me kind of mentality.
there are a lot of egos out there, and unfortunately, you're never going to get away from people having egos. I mean, but we're local. We're not celebrities. We're not Kardashians. We're not movie stars. We're still consumers. I don't understand how people get the big egos and think that they're famous because they have 50,000 followers and that they are the end all be all when it comes to food. Or,
Yeah,
I mean, I've been in the food industry myself over 30 years, in some form or fashion, whether it's back of the house or front of the house, you know. I just turned 50 on September 4th, 904 day, which is Big
happy
Rich
birthday.
Day first. Yes.
That's right.
But so I mean, I grew up in the hospitality business. My grandmother owned a bar here in Jacksonville. I worked in the restaurant industry, whether it's from fast food to fine dining, you know, but I still don't know everything, and I'm not the end all be all when it comes to food or marketing, or we all have our strengths and our weaknesses.
Yeah.
And if you think that having 50,000 followers makes you a celebrity, I got news for you. Nobody out there cares. They really don't. They'll view it. It's entertaining, but you're
Yeah.
not a celebrity. It's
Yeah.
you know.
No, I get that a lot. I mean, you talk about liking people hear themselves talk. I mean, that's why I have a podcast. I like to talk about things with interesting people,
Yeah,
and somebody I hope listens to it at some point. But
absolutely.
yeah, so you and me are of an age where we have seen no technology and all the technology, right?
Yeah,
So we grew up. I mean, we're of the Gen X generation. We grew up latchkey kids
yeah.
and having to entertain ourselves and all that. How much has technology changed the way that we consume things, even like food? How much has technology just from even not even cell phones, but well, yeah, from cell phones on, like when Steve Jobs walked out on the stage in 2007 and said, "Look at this thing." How much has
Yeah.
things changed just from that point to now? Of how we consume food, how we find new restaurants, how we find new experiences.
I mean, it has its pros and cons, Rich. I mean, obviously, it's great technology. We have more power in our pocket than NASA had when the first man walked on the moon.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, literally, we have so much power in our hands, but we also can become lazy, and we become impatient, because we want instant. We want it right now. We want to order our food and have it right there, waiting on us. Uh, and real good food takes a while, and there's a difference between going to a fast food restaurant and going and getting your food delivered and then actually going to a restaurant and having it cooked and presented to you, and having the plate come out there and looking gorgeous and appetizing. You know, food brings people together, if it's done right.
Yeah.
And technology is great because it has its place, but I also think that there's, bad parts of technology as well. And I grew up, like I said, I love technology. I love the I knew that from the beginning, after the flip phone, when they first came out with the smartphones, this is going to be how people find things, from GPS to, you know, advertising to marketing. This is going to be the new computer at home. You know, people have laptops still, but most of the time people just look on their phones for whatever they're searching for.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see how much technology has changed how we consume, right?
Yeah,
The instantaneousness of it all with delivery and being able to just see other types of food that you've never seen before and being able to access it now
yeah.
in a speedy way. Do you think with today's social media influencer kind of mentality, is it kind of a symbiotic relationship between restaurants and influencers? Like they kind of both need each other in a way, even though they may not necessarily like each other. But I mean, there's some restaurants that refuse to work with influencers that are just like, I am not getting into that bag. But they kind of come to realize, look, I may need to have this one person in here that's got like 1 million followers to help my business. Do you find that relationship kind of symbiotic?
Well, I think that sometimes um, it's not so much that they feel that they need them. It's just why everyone else is doing it. So sometimes it's it's they see enough people getting the attention. Sometimes they want the attention too if they see their sales starting to go down. But I got news for you. The restaurant business is an up and down, roller coaster. That's like it's one of the worst businesses you can get in if you're looking to make money.
Yeah, yeah,
Honestly, if you're looking to get rich, do something else.
yeah.
If you're looking to get rich right away, do something else, because the restaurant business is not something you can get rich quick.
Right,
You
right.
know, even if
So
you're even if you're buying into a franchise, it's still not a, you're still got to last for 5 years before
yeah.
you really start turning a profit to where you can pay yourself.
Yeah, where you had to pay off that initial, investment of buying
Yeah.
into a franchise, right? So you said you worked with restaurants as a social media kind of consultant and things like that. Do you kind of, and I'm asking because I don't know, do you create kind of social media campaigns for them in ways of like, here's how you need to,
Yes.
you do their social media, so you obviously go in there and record content and put it up on Instagram or whatnot. How do you measure success in terms of a social media campaign? Like, not all success converts to, or not all social media converts to dollars spent at the restaurant. So,
Right.
how do you measure success in a way to be able to talk to a restaurant and say, look, we ran this Instagram Reel campaign. I think it did great because X, Y, Z.
Well, because your sales went up. That's the only way. That's the only true way to measure it. Is, do you have more people coming in? Do you have more
Right.
tickets? Are there more tickets on the register? Do you have more customers walking in your door? That's the only way really to measure it. Going viral, honestly, means very little unless you got customers walking in the door from it. You know,
Yeah.
it just doesn't really matter if it doesn't amount to customers.
Yeah.
And not just that week, but months and months of that, you know, because just because you have, 100,000 views on a reel that you did for your restaurant, because you collaborated and you paid somebody, a bunch of money to do this reel, and because they have 50,000 followers, you think that makes you go viral. No, they already have the following, so it's mostly their following that viewed it because it's on their page. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to amount to customers walking in your door, because you don't know where those views are really coming from.
Right.
Those views aren't, 90% of them aren't local
Yeah.
in most cases.
have you ever created a reel or or a social media campaign for a restaurant where you saw like a large number of views, likes, and interactions, but didn't necessarily translate into sales, and you kind of wonder like why isn't that happening? Like, have you ever run into that conundrum and try to how do you get a social media campaign to convert to dollars spent?
Well, it's consistency actually. The problem is that a lot of people do these campaigns with with certain influencers, and they get 30,000 views or whatever, and they see a little bit of uptick in their in their customer base come in once for like a week, but because that that reel is gone, it's not on when if you're posting like you're supposed to be posting,
Hmm.
that reel is gone. It's back a week ago. It's and so those people who viewed it aren't going back and viewing it again. Nine
Yeah.
times out of ten, they've forgotten about it because that same influencer or even those same people are moved on to something else because that influencer has moved on to something else.
Yeah. So like the Keith Lee effect of social media, that really is an outlier, right? Where
Yeah, yeah,
where he shows up to a place and then immediately there's like a line out the door and around the corner. That's an anomaly, kind of an outlier type
yes,
situation.
absolutely.
What you see more of is that grind of posting, every day or every other day and being consistent and catching followers through repetition versus that one immediate big viral
Right.
push.
And being consistent with your food, with your product, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, once you get somebody in your door, it's up to you, the owner of the restaurant, and your kitchen staff and your out and front staff. It's up to you guys to have that customer come back again because they need the experience now. Just because you went, like I said, because they stepped in your door because they saw somebody with a if they saw somebody with a big plate, a table full of food, that's a spectacle that catches the eye. It's entertaining. But once they come in your door, it's up to you after that to keep them coming back.
Yeah.
And if you don't wow them at least on a small amount with the quality of your food, the taste of your food, the quality of your experience, and like just the atmosphere and environment that they are dining in, that person is probably not going to come back
Yeah. Yeah.
because, in all honestly, they're going to be disappointed because they're not getting the same. They're not going to get the same experience that influencer did,
Yeah.
which is another reason why I don't do that. I don't do the whole platter full, like table full of food because that's not the experience that I would get as a customer. When
Right.
I go to a restaurant, I order an appetizer, I order an entree, maybe a dessert. That's it. That's all because that's what I would normally order.
Hmm.
And I tell you about what I had and if I liked it and what I didn't like, if I enjoyed it, what I would recommend, because I'm not a seafood guy. You talked about the seafood tower,
Yeah.
you know, I don't do shellfish. That's a texture thing I don't do anything fishy. Like I don't even do seaweed. Even though I love spam, I don't like spam masubi because of the seaweed.
Oh yeah. That's funny.
But I'm like I said, that's why I tell people when they ask me because I get people that DM me all the time. Hey, where's this? Where can I get the best, seafood boil? I'm like, don't ask me because I don't know.
Yeah.
I can tell you where I've seen other people go to. I can show you the other people's reviews or other people's, pages, but I'm not the guy to ask for about seafood.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if I go in a restaurant, people like when they see what I ordered, that's the way it's going to come to your plate as well. Because I don't want them to do anything special and make it look all fancy if it doesn't normally look that way. Because if I go to a place, Rich, and then you go to the place a week later, you should get the same presentation that I got
Yeah.
if it's real. If it's, but if somebody's doing the whole presentation, once again, that's advertisement. That's not real life.
Right. So beyond all the social media and all the virality of videos and trying to go viral, it really all comes down to consistency, right? It all comes down to put out
Absolutely.
good food. That's how you build a regular, right? You get them in and then you treat them well,
Yeah.
give them good food every single time, and then you're not going to need the social media virality because you're going to have that good word of mouth to spread out to everybody. You
Absolutely.
you work with a lot of businesses, and let's say you're working with a client and they come to you and they're like, hey, Big Rich, there's this social media influencer that I want to work with, and I want to try to make that happen. Free advice for all business owners out there. What kind of things would you advise a business owner to look for when they're evaluating a possible social media influencer collaboration?
All I tell people is be realistic. You know, don't expect that you're going to go viral because of their following. Just be realistic. And yes, you may see an uptick in sales, but most of those people are only going to do that one reel for you, and unless you're paying them, you'll most likely never see them again. They're not going to be coming to your restaurant, weekly or even monthly. They're not going to be sharing your stuff on their stories, unless you have it in a contract that they're required to. So
Yeah.
once you pay them and they come in and do their reel, you'll get some uptick. 9 times out of 10, you will get some type of uptick off of spending, whatever money you spent. Um, but in reality, that's not going to be a regular thing. You got to make sure that once you get people in the door, you're still consistent. Your food's got to be on point. You can't dip in quality. You have to make sure that your services is on point, your food is on point. Everything has to be of the best quality and the best experience. Otherwise, you'll never see that person again.
Yeah. So I'm a business. I decide to work with a social media influencer. What kind of questions should I ask of them to make sure they're on the up and up? That make sure that this social media influencer is going to benefit me as a local business. It's a job interview essentially. Like, yeah, I'm going to contact a social media influencer. I want to make sure I'm getting the most bang for my buck. What should I ask this influencer to say? How are you going to help me?
Well, in all reality, there is no guarantee.
Yeah.
The return on investment, there is no real true guarantee. You know, so there's really no the way to know if you're going to see that return on investment or not. And you could ask what percentage can I expect, and they can give you a number, but that's not guaranteed either.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can say, well, most of the restaurants I work with may see a 5 to 10% increase in sales. But but obviously that's not going to be long term in most cases, unless you really wow every single person that comes in and they want to come back and get it again and again.
Yeah.
So you can ask like, about return on investment. Is this a collaboration? Are you going to be just tagging the restaurant, or is it going to be collaboration? Which I tell people, make sure that it's a collaboration and not just they're coming in and tagging you.
Mm.
Because if it's not a collaboration, then you can't see the insights. You can't see the stats. You can't see
Good point.
how many views it actually has, and you can't see how many like shares that it has and likes. And likes, honestly, likes and views mean nothing.
Hmm.
Means absolutely nothing. I mean, because I can click all day long and hard. But all that means nothing because as soon as it hits your screen, that's a view, even if it's just in your feed. So you're going to get a lot of views on those because they have followers, right?
Yeah.
But you want to look at the engagement. How many actual local people commented in the comment section.
Good point. It's a
If you
good point.
got 50,000 followers and there's only, 20 to 50, comments in there, that's a low engagement.
Yeah. You might be buying followers, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's out there.
Yeah.
I get DMs daily of people wanting to sell me followers and likes and views.
Hmm.
You can all that stuff can be paid for.
Hmm.
Even I'll be honest with you, even comments can be paid for by bots.
Oh, wow. I
So,
haven't heard that.
but you can look at it and you can tell if it's a bot. Typically, you can tell if it's a bot because it'll be just some random, you know, obviously it'll be like, let me share it and stuff like that,
Yeah.
stuff like those are bots that are in Pakistan and India and like Germany and Russia. Those are just like bots. They're fake. They're computer generated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the difference between a tag and a collaboration, especially on Instagram. It's night and day. Like I've done interviews with folks, and I have put them in as collaborators on a post that I would do to promote the podcast episode. Some would accept it, some wouldn't, and some that would accept it as collaborator. Man, the interaction is triple what my normal views would
Yeah,
be because it's on both of our profiles, and
absolutely.
I'm interviewing a guest that's got the followers, so it is really interesting. So that's a good distinction to bring up. So
Yeah, yeah. Look at their engagement. No, like I said, views are nothing because I've got average videos that do 1,500 to 3,000 views, but I've also got a few of them that are up there in 20,000, 30,000. Because a lot of people shared it.
yeah,
And who knows where those people are that are viewing it. So the shares and the views and the likes aren't really essential to actually making a return on investment. It's the engagement that is in that comment section. Real people commenting that
right.
are local as well. And to be honest with you, you gotta either be on that comment section replying to those people,
Hmm.
because a lack of engagement on your side can make or break that return on investment. Because if you're actually like liking and you're like liking their comment and like responding back to when they say I got to go try that, if you're not in that comment section going, we got a plate waiting for you, come on by.
Yeah.
That little bit of effort, it will really increase your engagement and your traffic coming in your door.
Yeah, that personal interaction, being able
Yes.
replying to those comments. Yeah, that's a good point. So speaking of kind of disruptive social media companies, we were talking offline before the podcast that you were working with another social. Is it like a social media company or is it an upcoming app? Kind of tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes, I'm really, really excited about this. It's a company called No Lemon. It's just spelled the way it is, all one word, but it's No Lemon. It's a mobile app, and it's a combination. And this is the way I explain it to people. It's a combination of like a Yelp, Instagram, uh, Match.com. Yeah, it's like all in one. It's basically it allows you to match yourself with restaurants based on the type of food that you enjoy. So if you say like it's just like on a dating site, I'm into football, I'm into hiking or whatever, and it matches you to other people. Well, same thing on No Lemon is you say I'm into this type of food and this type of environment, things like that, outside dining, things like it matches you to those restaurants that are serving that type of food and have that type of dining, that type of experience. It matches you, so it actually helps people find you without having to search for you.
So it's a dating app for people in restaurants, not for
Ex-
people to find people. It's for people to find restaurants.
Exactly.
So you can like
And
swipe left, swipe right on a restaurant.
yeah, you can go in there and you can look at videos. You can look as a customer, as a local person who goes there, you can post your videos just like you can on Instagram. You can post your pictures just like you can on Yelp. You can do reviews, but the difference, which I'm really excited about, is that you have to show proof.
Oh, okay.
You actually have to have a receipt, or you got to be in the GPS location to write something up about that restaurant.
Okay. So you got to physically be there.
Yes, you got to physically, like, it's actually like geotag. You got to be there. You have to have actually gone to the restaurant or have a receipt, right? And what's great is it automatically, whether it's a good review or a bad review, it automatically archives after 57 days.
Oh, wow. So archive, so like it just
It
goes away.
disappears.
Oh, so the
It
the revolving number of reviews are only, a few at a time as opposed to just this volume
it
of
also
reviews.
makes it also makes people it also makes restaurant owners more responsible for their reviews and their numbers, getting being at that 5-star level versus, you know, having having a bunch of 5 stars that are from 6 years ago.
Mm.
And
So
that's the
it's
only
more
reason.
recent, more recent.
Everything's within the first 60 days. And once 57 days, it falls off. So if you have a 5-star rating and you got a few 1 stars, well, when a couple of those 5 stars fall off, that's going to bring your score down.
Mm. Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
you need to encourage people. You need to be encouraging people to give you new reviews, and you have to make sure that your service is high quality to to deserve those 5-star reviews.
So it's really rewarding that consistency that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
And as a consumer, this new platform also rewards the consumer. The more you review and the more you go out to dine and support these restaurants and food trucks and coffee shops and stuff, the more you get badges.
Okay.
You get badges that you wind up at once you get to a certain level, you save 5% at that restaurant. You save 5% at that type of restaurant or that, and it's already like set up with the owners that they know that if somebody comes in with that badge, they get a 15% or 10% or 5% based on where they are in the level.
So it rewards regular visitations to this restaurant as a consumer.
Exactly. So you don't have to wait till you get a certain amount of points, which you can still do,
Yeah.
but it's already set up in the system to give you that discount when you go to the actual like restaurant because you frequent that type of restaurant or that restaurant in general. So you're going to get a badge that gives you an instant 15% off every time you go there.
That's cool. I'll have to check that out. So what's your role with this new app? Are you part of their kind of promotional team? Like what's your role in this?
Yeah, basically I'm an ambassador.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
basically an ambassador for the local scene. I'm one of a few of local ambassadors. It's not just me, but basically I'm working more of the obviously the food truck side is because I have a larger influence in the food truck industry.
Hmm.
Because of my other page, Food Trucks of 904, I've been working with the food truck community for almost 6 years on a social media level. But I was a customer before then.
Sure.
I always enjoyed finding the food trucks that are out there. But now, I have a good working relationship with a lot of the old school food trucks that are still out there, like Hungry Owl and like um, Brochachos and Hibachi Party, things like that. When I've already have this relationship with a lot of these like food trucks because I've been doing this for a while. But then because I have that relationship, I have their experience to help smaller, newer food trucks navigate
Yeah.
through those trials and tribulations and consulting with them on their menus, and on their, how they get started, where they can get, their hoods cleaned at, where they can get electricity, or where they can, get, services, where they can get, grease dump, gray water dump. There's that you have to be able to navigate that kind of stuff when you first
Yeah, it's
start.
intimidating. That's intimidating if you
A
don't know
lot.
any
Yeah,
of
it's a
that
lot.
information.
A lot.
So yeah, so I mean, social media influencers, places like Yelp and TripAdvisor, they're not going anywhere. So the thing to do as a restaurant owner is to work within that system, right? You just got to know what you're getting into, understand kind of what you're looking for in a social media influencer. If you want to do a collaboration, make sure you're asking good questions of them. How is it going to be spread? And hire a good social media manager like Big Rich here, and
Yeah.
help you navigate that new kind of uncharted territory of social media. So, uh, Big Rich, I want to thank you for coming on. It was an enjoyable conversation. I want to give you the last few minutes here just to promote whatever you want to promote. If I'm a business and I want to employ your services, how would I find you?
Well, you can find me on all the social media at Big Rich Nose Jacks. Typically, if you just type in Big Rich, my little icon pops up, in the list of usually first. Uh, my my logo and everything pops up. And if you just want to consult, we can sit down, and if it's a good fit, because I tell people, if you're not willing to learn this system, learn the algorithm, learn when's the best time to post, you know, if you're not willing to learn it, you have to pay somebody that's going to do it. You have to have somebody, whether it's me or whether it's a family member, if you have kids that are, that are working with your restaurant or your business, make them do it. If you can't, if you don't feel you can afford to pay somebody to do it, make sure somebody's doing it. You can't just let your social media go like limp and go stagnant,
Yeah.
because people look at your social media when they're looking for restaurants. They do. It's just like, back in the day when you would go and you look at the yellow pages back in our day. There's no more yellow pages. It's now social media.
Yeah, that's true. And if I'm a consumer looking for a good place to eat, and where would I find you to recommend a good spot?
Well, same thing. If you're looking for like new places, you will not find me at a seafood restaurant. However, there's a lot you can go down the rabbit hole. I recommend you do it during the day because you wind up going down that rabbit hole on my page late at night, and you'll never get any sleep because you see all this food, and then you're hungry at the middle of the night. Then I can't do anything about that. But you could also DM me. If you start following me, you can DM me, and I can give you recommendations. If you don't find anything like within the first few rows of my post, feel free to hit me up in a DM.
All right. And
Uh,
what's the
uh,
food truck? What's the food truck one again at Food Trucks 904?
so yeah, if you go, it's Big Rich Nose Jacks all together, JAX, or Food Trucks of 904.
Okay.
And then one simple thing I did is I put the actual link for Food Trucks in 904 on my Big Rich bio. So it'll take you right to the page.
All right. All right. Great. And check out the No Lemon app. It's available now, I'm assuming,
So
on Apple and Android,
so
or
right now you can download it, but it hasn't completely downloaded, or it hasn't launched yet.
oh, okay.
But once you get into on the beta, once it officially launches, they'll send you an invite code.
Okay.
Like as a business owner, you can sign up right now. Hit me up. I have a link that I can send you if you want to sign up, um, to get first dibs on having an account as a restaurant, a coffee shop, food truck, anything in the hospitality industry. We can get you in early by signing up now, and it's free. It's free to sign up.
Cool. Cool. Well, Big Rich, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the hearty discussion about the new wave of social media and restaurants, and it's a brave new world out there, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I appreciate you inviting me to come on your podcast, and hopefully, we reach some people that need to hear what we have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a reminder, everybody, to follow me on socials at Rich Rare and at Eat Your Content, and also to follow anywhere you get your podcast at Eat Your Content. Always your food or your home for food and pop culture. Thank you for tuning in, and Big Rich, I'll see you on the road at some point.
Yes, you will. Sounds
All
good.
right. Thanks.
Thanks.